10, thinking!
I'm Sean Broderseth, and I've been thinking about the Archbishop of York. A man I don't often think about, I must say. But he made comments recently that I thought were interesting, and I thought we can actually learn from them. He was addressing the ruling body of the Church of England. It must be said the Church of England is not doing so well in terms of holding the line, the biblical line. But here's an article that was in a very mainstream news outlet, and here's how it's worded. The Archbishop of York has suggested that the opening words of the Lord's Prayer, that's our Father, the opening words of the Lord's Prayer recited by Christians all over the world for 2,000 years may be problematic because of their patriarchal association. In his opening address to a meeting of the Church of England's ruling body, the General Synod, Stephen Cottrell dwelt on the words, Our Father, the start of the prayer based on Matthew 6 verse 9 to 13 and Luke 11 verse 2 to 4 in the New Testament. This is what he said. I know the word father is problematic for those whose experience of earthly fathers has been destructive and abusive, and for all of us who have labored rather too much from an oppressively patriarchal grip on life, he said. So that was his main statement, and he got a lot of pushback on that from people within the church. Well, this was his clarification a little bit later. He received pushback from people saying, well, what are you talking about? This was his clarification from a different article in a Christian publication. The Archbishop of York, Stephen Cottrell, has issued a clarifying statement on his previous comments regarding the use of the phrase, Our Father, in Christian prayer, insisting Christians should continue with its use, so he backtracked a bit, Christians should continue with its use while also being sensitive to individuals who have been victims of abuse perpetrated by men, and this was his clarifying statement. A few weeks ago, I found myself a little misunderstood when I pointed out that some people who have never known a father present in their life, or worse, been abused or neglected by their father, may find this word challenging, he wrote. But what I wasn't saying is that we should stop using the word, simply that we need to be sensitive as we lead people in prayer. Well, that was his clarification. Well, I want to just mention one or two things, and I feel what's most important in this little exchange and what he has said is he's forgotten the next words. The next words of the prayer are, Our Father who is in heaven. Now, this man is seemingly quite concerned for people's welfare. He's concerned for their mindsets, for their view of things. But he's forgetting something. The entire point is that God is not our Father on earth. God is our Father in heaven. In other words, we don't start avoiding seeing God as a Father because we've seen some damage done down here on earth through men or through fathers. How many people have had damaging fathers in their households? I think, honestly, probably a majority of people have actually been damaged by their father rather than being helped. But you don't turn on God and say, well, I'm going to measure and monitor and moderate how I think of God as the Father because of that, because of my sensitivity to that. I actually run to God as Father because He is the Father in heaven. He is the perfect Father. Jesus didn't tell us what to pray, He taught us how to pray. So I don't need to use those exact words, but I am, as a Christian, to see God as my Father in heaven. That's what He wants us to do. In fact, it was the start of the way we should relate to God. So I actually orientate myself on God the Father. I don't downplay it or dumb it down or bring it down or dilute it. I lean into it. I push into God as the Father because He's the perfect Father. He is the Father who's able to help me in my damaged relationships on this earth. How many people have actually come into proper relationships with their fathers or men in their lives because they've understood God the Father? How many people have grown up in homes that have had profound damage done to them, but they didn't figure that out and fix that and have that healed because they diluted God's fatherhood. They had that healed and fixed because they came to God's fatherhood and they made much of God's fatherhood, and in turn God's fathering them helped them process the fathers that they had on earth. This man is wrong. He's wrong. He's going to damage those under his care, and he's going to have to answer for that. You do not diminish God because of what man has done. You do not tear God down and dilute Him because you're afraid of people's concepts among ourselves. No, you make much of God. You make God the Father bigger than anything because God the Father will help you. I want to say to you, if you're listening to this and you find yourself in some kind of position or mindset or mind space that He's trying to describe, don't listen to this advice. It's bad advice. Call on God the Father. Make the center of your interactions with God the fact that He is your Father, and see how the Father leads you into grace and into mercy towards those who have even been over you or been in your life that have hurt you. See how the Father calibrates you properly, and you'll see that the more we make of the Father God, the more He helps us in this life. I've written a book called The Throwbacks. It's about the need for us to go backwards. And as the church tries to move itself forward, it actually needs to look back at how the early church understood things. You can pick one up if you email me, sean@oxygenlife.co.za.
The end!